So let's talk about the Chicago Bulls versus Golden State game. This game was actually a really close one between two teams which have been disappointing this year to say the least. Both of these teams have been middle of the pack teams with extremely good players. Obviously, one better than the other, who which have been, you know, in the lower marks of the respective conferences due to their underperformances this year and the rosters which they've constructed throughout the season. In terms of the Bulls have seen a rapid decline of their starting unit as Lonzo Ball got injured. Alex Caruso and DeMar DeRozan look like the only competent players. Kobe White looks good, but he doesn't. He looks like a good stats bad team guy. And even some of the guys which were promising stars like Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic are dealing with either a lot of injury, a lot of inconsistency, or no defense. Apart from this, we could see a clear disconnect from their good young players like Ayo Dosunmu and other guys which had good seasons and were expected to develop, but this season they were not, given the opportunities to be that much better, even though they improved greatly. I really like the players in the Bulls, and with the Warriors, it's really the same thing. Recently, they figured it more out, but they have the same problems with guys like Trace Jackson Davis and Moses Moody, which were promised, developmental roles, but due to the stars still being present, they haven't been able to expand. With the Warriors and the Bulls, they're obviously two very different franchises, as both of them do hold different values and have had different levels of success. The Bulls and this core have never worked. Meanwhile, the Warriors have won 4 championships together. But when we do look at the teams and the inconsistencies of people like Chris Paul, when we look at Gary Payton Jr., and the time that he's missed, when we look at a guy like Clay and the season, in a bad way, I'm saying this, that he's been having, we could see that there's definitely a difference between what these teams are doing and what they aspire to be. For both of these teams, they want to, make the best out of their situation. They've looked to be better, and especially with the Warriors, they're looking to compete for a championship. With that being said, in this game, we were highlighted the reason why both of these teams are not in championship contention. First, I do want to say that this was an absolute snooze fest of a game. They were letting each other, and by snooze fest, I mean that for most of the game, it was just like a very bad defense with just, motion offense and some really weird plays and bad defensive timing reads, which would have not slid against maybe most other teams. Apart from this, I do want to say that the fact that the Warriors struggled this much against the Bulls and even lost this game, but I'll get into that shortly, really shows the reason why the Bulls and the Warriors are so bad. First, I want to say that the Bulls definitely had a good game, and the Warriors did too. And what I mean by that is in terms of, keeping the game close and making sure that it didn't escape their hands. The Bulls had great efficiency, they shot great, but the Warriors, on the other hand, they shot 26% from three in this game. This was mostly due to some really bad shooting splits from Stephen Curry, especially from three, and some really bad shooting splits from Moses Moody and Clay and Draymond Green as starters and off the bench. With this, we saw a clear incline in both of these teams to just score as much as possible, run up the score, play no defense, and in the end, it ended up working for the Bulls, but for the Warriors, this ended up actually costing them the game. As we know, in the fourth quarter, the Warriors had come back from down I think it was around 15 to 20 points. And then they came back. They looked like they were hitting everything. Clay hit a clutch shot. With it, like they were both playing this terrible offense. Not offensively, I'm sorry, defensively. Now, in the end of the game, it was 1 minute left, and Kobe White and DeMar DeRozan just put on a clinic, hitting straight shots, and especially DeRozan, where DeRozan scored some really tough buckets at the end of the game. He scored free throws. But at the other end, we saw, Klay Thompson doing the same thing. Klay Thompson hit a huge three, but DeMar came back on the other end and hit one of the meanest and ones that I've seen in a while, which put the Bulls up too. Then Brandon Pajemski absolutely sold the game after that DeMar play, right? Where DeMar had hit the free throw. It was a 2 point game. They hit the. Then came the Warriors, came back, hit the three, but that wasn't enough. And it would have been enough if Pajemski would have not smoked that layup. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, Brandon Pajemski had a wide open, layup at the end of the game, where he was basically spinning and he was gonna lay it up, but in the end it rolled off the rim, which really caused the game to finish right there as the Bulls just got in clutch mode and really did that for them, where they won the game. Apart from this, let me talk about another game. I want to talk about this Boston Celtics versus Denver Nuggets game. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to say, but weren't you talking about the other game? Now, the reason why I want to speak on this one is because I want to speak on the difference and how this affects the other teams. When we look at the game from the Denver Nuggets and the Boston Celtics, and I'm not going to explain the game or talk about the game itself, but I want to use that as a reference. If you guys didn't see it, they did play each other, Boston and Denver, which is ironic. They did that right after I posted the video, and which I did like because I got to see how these teams were going to play out against each other. This might be the finals matchup if we're being honest. But when I saw that game, the level of defense and game planning that it looked like both those teams had was not what I saw from the Bulls and the Warriors. From the Bulls and the Warriors, I saw two teams which didn't look like they wanted to play that game. They looked extremely winded, tired, and especially from everything, it looked like the Warriors weren't ready to take on that crunch time moment without Steph Curry. I don't know if Steph Curry got injured or why he wasn't playing at the end of the fourth, but I did see that Pajemski was given the ball and was given a lot of opportunity, and he terribly missed on that with some terrible moments, which made them really have to clutch up. And in my opinion, the Warriors without Steph Curry talking about clutch up is not a good idea. So when it comes to this game, I really saw the deficiency that the Warriors have. And the biggest deficiency that the Warriors have is the fact that their defense is just not good enough. It's not. And I say that with the most emphasis possible on the fact that they could fix this. They have Draymond, which is the last, effort guy, the last guy who looks like he actually cares about defense, and the last guy who actually looks like he really wants to put that team on his back and really make something happen. So you have one guy. And for the Warriors, I do believe that if you play through Draymond, you will eventually get the results that you want. Now the problem is that Draymond cannot do it all for a team. And I'm sorry, but Draymond has been known to anchor defenses. He has been known to play a lot of positions. But Draymond is more of a leader. He will tell you where to be. He will tell you how to play. But then it's up to you to go and actually try and put some effort into playing defense. The reason why I think that this is a problem for the Warriors is because before they had guys who were completely bought into the system. So maybe Steph wasn't playing defense, but then you went to the next position of the shooting guard, and Klay was an all-defensive player. The small forward was Draymond. The power forward was KD at one point. if not Iguodala, which both play defense. And then the center was just always some big guy who had good instincts. The problem with this team is that they have a bunch of rookies who don't want to play defense, who don't want to put the effort in, and they don't want to put in the amount of work that it takes to win a championship if they want to do that this season.